Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to another episode of No Huddle Rodeo presented by Cavender's, broadcasting from the Fort Worth Stockyards just like we always are. And we've got Rodeo Austin. We've got Rodeo Houston getting closer and closer to the finish. Also, some really good rodeos in Arcadia, Florida, Louisville, Kentucky. So a lot to go through today. But let's start with what happened last night at Rodeo Austin. James Arviso and Rance Doyal, what did they do in the team roping? They matched the arena record with a 3.2 second run. And there's a couple things that make this insane other than the fact that it was a 3-2 at Rodeo Austin, which, by the way, Tanner Tomlinson and Colby Payne the night before last were 3-5 to match the arena record there. Then Arviso and Doyal not only broke that arena record, they were 0.3 faster than that arena record and went on to break the world record. Again, that's one thing that makes it nuts, is just how fast they are going there. Because I said Tomlinson and Payne are going to be tough to beat at 7.5 seconds on 2. Well, now Arviso and Doyal, they've got a good opportunity to get right up in there in that average with them if they are 4.2 or faster, 4.3, 4.4 in that range. All of those times, which again are still tough to do, will best Tomlinson and Payne, which like I said, would be very, very tough to beat. Also, on top of that, for James Arviso, he had never been faster than 3.7 in his career. For Rance Doyal, it was the second time in his career he was 3.2. He matched his own arena record, or his own world record, that he set with Mason Appleton just 8 months prior at the Snake River Stampede. They also did it in their 5th rodeo as a team. They are a new team this year. They roped together at junior ropings back in the day. That chemistry remains unchanged because they went to the finals in Fort Worth. They went to the finals in San Antonio. This was their 4th run in the 3s already this season. And again, in just their 5th rodeo, they are world record holders. And now Rance Doyal holds it with 2 different headers, which is just an incredible accomplishment in and of itself. And also, they are both in the top 15, still searching for that ultimate goal of a first national finals rodeo appearance. So I wanted to make sure we started with that. Wanted to make sure that did not fly under the radar, because something else that happened at Rodeo Austin, I feel like did go under the radar. And that was the Xtreme Bulls that happened on March 13th, happened on Friday the 13th. So maybe that's why it all got lost in here. It was also on the heels of the world champs going to the White House. So much happening in the Western world. But that bull riding action in Austin really brought some changes to the leaderboard and brought up some things that I think have made for very interesting storylines in the bull riding. We'll start with the winner, Dylan Rice, who has had one of the most unique bull riding seasons, or pro rodeo season, starts to a season, I have really ever seen. So in the first weekend of the year, he wins $7,000 across 2 rodeos. That's October 3rd through 5th, 2025. So the first weekend of the season, I should say. He then goes the rest of October, all of November, all of December, all of January, all of February without winning a check. Then he advances out of the Lufkin Xtreme Bulls, or he wins a check there. He advances out of his Super Series at Rodeo Houston. Then he goes to the Rodeo Austin Xtreme Bulls, where he's 89 points, and he wins over $13,000. And now, after going without a check for 4 months already this season, he's number 20 in the world. And like I mentioned, has an opportunity to very much add to that total at Rodeo Houston. There is also, because of the Xtreme Bulls at Rodeo Austin, a new number 1 in Luke Mackey, the Colorado kid, $64,000. Second at this event, 10,000 plus. This is a guy, mind you, he rode 6 of 10 in his NFR debut, kind of unexpectedly rode really, really well at the NFR, really made a name for himself, almost won Rookie of the Year if it weren't for Bryce Jensen. So with all that talk about Hudson Bolton, Quinn Anderson, it was actually Bryce Jensen and Luke Mackey who really, really came through for the rookies at the NFR. And he has picked that up all the way through this year. He rode 46% a year ago. Like I said, 60% at the NFR. He bucks off his first 4 this year. Since then, he rode 20 of 30. So he's riding 2/3 of his bulls of late, and he's riding 58% for the season. You hold that up over the entire year, that'll rank you probably at worst 3rd or 4th among the NFR qualifiers. And the way he's earning money right now, he really, really could, if he keeps up this pace, maybe gets one good Texas swing showing down the stretch, he could have $80, $90, $100,000 entering the summer run. And when you're getting on bulls every day and some guys are riding 40%, other guys are riding 60%, I mean, that's easy math to do. You get 2 more qualified rides out of every 10 for a whole summer, you're in really, really good position. And then the guy who finished 3rd, Cooper James, 87 points on life sentence. He won $7,800 for that. He is up to number 3 in the world after winning the 2024 Rookie of the Year, finishing 3rd in the world that year, really taking ProRodeo by storm, and then kind of due to injuries, inconsistency, fading a little bit in 2025. Cooper James, still a whole long career in front of him, looks to be back in NFR form. He has already won 8 checks of at least $3,000 this season. So I feel like, and again, maybe I was a part of that, just kind of underreported, but interesting story for Dylan Rice, the champion. Number 2 guy at that event, Luke Mackey, now number 1 in the world. Number 3 guy at that event, Cooper James, now number 3 in the world. On to Rodeo Houston, because obviously we can't not talk about the highest paying rodeo in ProRodeo. The rodeo that pays $65,000 to the winner, when the second highest paying rodeo in ProRodeo, San Antonio, you'll win about $25,000 for first place. So just a gulf of a difference if you happen to win this rodeo. And someone who always shows up at this rodeo is RC Landingham. This is now the 5th year in a row that he has advanced out of his Super Series into the semifinals of Rodeo Houston. He was 87, 82, and 86 points. He won 2 of the 3 rounds, $6,500 total. It came down to him and his good friend and traveling partner, Clayton Bigelow, on that last day to see who would win that Super Series. Landingham, number 4 in the world in the early going. Finished number 16 last year on the bubble. So any additional money in Houston on top of the $6,500, which is the most he has ever won in a Super Series in that stretch, any additional money on top of that really is huge for him, because he just missed out last year. And so if he goes on to get the thing that eluded him, which is a shootout appearance in one of those 10, 15, 20, $65,000 checks, if he makes the shootout, that would have made him the NFR last year. And so that could make a really, really big difference. Makes a big difference for everyone's season, but really makes a difference when it's a guy who has been here many times, who finished number 16 1 year ago. Another guy who's really showed up at Rodeo Houston the last 2 years now, Tristen Hutchings. 2 round wins, $6,000, 2 for 3 in Rodeo Houston. Remember last year, he went 5 for 6. He won this rodeo. He won $74,000 when he did it. And then very shortly after, he went on to win the American. And Tristen Hutchings, I always like to point this out with Tristen Hutchings, because outside of, let's say, Kai Hamilton, Stetson Wright, Josh Frost over the last 4 years, Tristen Hutchings is a clear top 5 bull rider in the PRCA to me. He won Houston last year by going 91.5 in the finals, made 3 straight rides of 86.5 or better to close it. And we have seen this year a similar deal, that he can be a 90-point ride machine, because he was 90.5 on Soccer Mom to win San Antonio. To date this year, he is 12 for 20 and looking for his 3rd straight Texas swing final. And I talked about this a little bit in a previous No Huddle Rodeo. Tristen Hutchings in 2023 or 2024 rode about 33% entering the NFR. In 2025, he got up to 48%. If he can hold at 55, 60%, he is a very legitimate world title contender, especially if he goes on to win Rodeo Houston for potentially a 2nd straight year. And Houston's a tough rodeo to win. All these bracket-style rodeos are, because you really do have to be a guy who is capable of going 6 for 6, 5 for 6, 4 for 6 at the absolute worst. And there's only so many guys who can do that on this stock. Tristen Hutchings is one of them. He has made it out of his semifinal once again. He has won 2 go-rounds once again, and he is in a really, really good position already back in the top 5 in the world standings as well. I had not mentioned that. Some other performers in Rodeo Houston just to touch on. Damian Brennan, Cade Bruno. Not a ton of cash for the Bronc riders. Easton West was the only one with $7,000. Damian Brennan has now matched that. Rides of 83.5, 86, and 85.5 points. Cade Bruno wins 6,500. They are number 11 and number 4 in the world, respectively. And I think it's important, because I talked about this in the bareback riding last week, how far Rodeo Houston can go toward winning the world title. 5 of the 9 athletes who won Rodeo Houston won the world this past year, and they all were within their Houston margin. So if you would have taken Houston out of their earnings, they all would not have won that world title. So obviously super important just to hammer that home again. But I think in the Bronc riding, because Rusty Wright has opened up a lead of about $40,000 now, became the first athlete over the weekend to clear $100,000 in earnings this year. The next highest in a single event is Wacey Schalla, who's at $72,000. He extended his lead to about $14,000 in the bareback riding world standings over the weekend, by the way, with a win at the Cinch World's Toughest. But I say all that to illustrate that Rusty Wright has a lead that is not common in any event ever at this time in the season. And we're in a situation where someone could win Rodeo Houston and still not be number 1 in the world. But what they would do is at least get on the same plane as Rusty Wright. So if it's a Damian Brennan, if it's a Cade Bruno, if it's a Lefty Holman who has already moved on, if it's a Zeke Thurston, Dawson Hay, one of those guys, to name a few, Stetson Wright as well, Rusty's brother. If any of those guys who are already contenders, but contenders who are $40,000 or $50,000 behind Rusty Wright, if they win, they are right there on par. And entering the summer run, we are going to be in a situation where your world title favorites in the Bronc riding are Rusty Wright and the Rodeo Houston winner, Damian Brennan and Cade Bruno, 2 guys very capable of winning it. Both took big steps there. I mentioned it a little bit, but just to put a period on what Wacey Schalla has done so far this season in the bareback riding, not the bull riding. Not much bull riding to write home about for Wacey Schalla, to be frank, to start the year, but he wins that Cinch World's Toughest in Louisville, $6,300 for 87 points on Monkey Wrench. He has opened up, like I said, a lead of about $14,000 over Jake Lees. He's got $72,000 won. He's made 24 rides this year. All of them 80 points or better. About half of them, 11, have ended in go-round wins for Wacey Schalla. So talked a lot about Rusty Wright's dominance in the Bronc riding. Just did, for that matter. Wacey Schalla has been almost equal to that task in the bareback riding. And then the last thing I want to touch on before we go, there's actually 2 things, but the second to last thing we'll say, Kincade Henry once again continues to deliver, continues to say, I'm here. I am ready to challenge Riley Webb. I can win this world title. He in Houston, 3 straight runs of 8.6 or faster, including a 7.6. That is the fastest run of the rodeo. Then he goes to Rodeo Austin. Before he even competes in the semifinals at Rodeo Houston, 8.3, 7.6. He's got the fastest run at Rodeo Austin so far. He leads the average by 2.4 seconds. So just incredible stuff for Kincade Henry, who, mind you, has a lead of over $15,000 himself for the number 1 spot in the tie-down standings. And then my last thing, this is one that I didn't even put on my notes, but it's got to be discussed. John Crimber wins his first PRCA rodeo. So he'd won about $7,000 on his permit. The whole storyline coming in or over the last couple of weeks has been he's buying his PRCA card. He is going for the NFR. And then it became, well, how was that going to shake out? Well, his first official rodeo on that card, he goes to Arcadia. He rides for 89 points. He wins the rodeo by 3.5 points, wins over $6,000, and then goes to Tallahassee for the PBR event at Florida State, rides 2 of 3 there, and ends up number 1 in the world in the PBR. So what a weekend for John Crimber, both PRCA and PBR. And if you are going, whether it's Unleash the Beast, whether it's PBR teams, if you are at a PRCA rodeo around there that weekend, look out for John Crimber. Look out for Caden Loud. Look out for some of these guys because they are coming for the National Finals Rodeo. And John Crimber proved it this weekend that this is not a joke. This is not a publicity stunt. This is none of those things. He is 1 for 1 now on his card for 89 points and a win in Arcadia, Florida. So a lot more coming up. Obviously, Austin just getting started. When we next talk, we will have those champions at Rodeo Houston, which obviously leads to a ton of standings shifts, a ton of really positioning for what is going to happen moving forward, because this is the first of many times that I will remind everybody this. Somewhere between 65 to 75% of the athletes in the top 15 at the end of the Texas swing every year go on to make the NFR. And about 90% of the athletes who are in the top 15 after Houston are those athletes. So after Rodeo Houston, you can look at the top 15 and know confidently at least 50% of those guys will be in Las Vegas for the National Finals Rodeo. So I know all of that sounds like it's so far away, but believe me, it's not. And before you know it, it'll be July, it'll be August, it'll be September, and we'll be talking about the bubble. And we'll be looking back at what you did on the Texas swing and how it impacted the rest of the season. So stay with us for that. Stay with us for the conclusion of Austin. Stay with us all year long as we continue to break down the biggest stories in professional rodeo. But until then, this is No Huddle Rodeo presented by Cavenders. As always, like, subscribe, tell a friend. And I'm fired up for next week's show because we are talking Rodeo Houston and there will be plenty to discuss. So subscribe, share, like, and we will see you next week for more No Huddle Rodeo.